Welcome back. We are live from Penn GSE's Innovation Summit, and I have the immense pleasure of sitting with Dan Futrell, founder of Polymath University. Dan, a pleasure to meet you. Can you please tell the audience a little bit about Polymath University and what got you into the work?
Sure. Polymath University is a new model for higher education that is apprenticeship-based, interdisciplinary, and debt-free. I grew up first in foster care and then with a single dad who worked in a factory for 50 years. And he ended up dropping out of high school and then got a GED. And he worked rotating shifts, making housing installation. And he would come home after shifts and say, hey, if you don't want to do this, education is the thing that's going to open doors for you. Sure. And he's been right. So happy to kind of share part of that story, but we're trying to create a model that makes those open doors more possible for more young adults in the world where since 2010, those opportunities have become fewer, not more plentiful.
I'm curious, what's the role of university in 2025 and beyond? Because to your point, it's shifted.
Yeah.
College has become more expensive.
Yep. Less
people are applying, and there's a whole bunch of debt associated to pursuing a degree. You said debt-free. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about that a little bit. I've never heard of that before as it pertains to higher ed.
Yeah. Well, two questions in there. The role of a university. Let's knock that one out.
Yep.
The role of a university. A lot of the discussion today has been, is a university degree still worth it?
Right.
Our answer is yes. Okay. It definitely is. Now, there's some asterisks there for sure. But we see the role of a university as preparing students for the workplace and the world. Mm-hmm. And on both of those measures, higher ed today, the traditional legacy model of higher ed isn't delivering. Traditional higher ed is overcharging and under-delivering for students and employers. When we talk about debt-free, our model is based off of the military ROTC model. Mm-hmm. I attended college for free on an ROTC scholarship. At the time it would have been $100,000.
Wow.
And in exchange for zero tuition, nothing is truly free, right? But in exchange for a zero tuition degree, I committed 4 years of service to the military afterwards. We stepped back, and a lot of our team is military affiliated. Stepped back and said, all right, is there a world where that works outside of the military? The answer is yes. But all right, let's start to pull that ball apart a little bit. Like, what matters? Where might it actually work? Excuse me. And for roles where employers really struggle to fill, in healthcare administration, in data science, in cybersecurity and operations research, in roles like this that have high levels of vacancy, are expected to grow over the next 10 years, pay a livable wage, and have an industry-recognized certification associated with them. For roles like that, we see a world where we can play matchmaker between future employer and student, future employee, where the future employer is coming to Polymath for a talent pipeline of early stage employees that have exactly the skills that they want and need. And the student who might otherwise, maybe they're part of the 1 million young adults who don't attend college, who have opted out of college every year because the cost is too high or they see the ROI is too low. We're trying to play matchmaker between the two while offering an education that really prepares them to think critically and interact with technology in a way that legacy models aren't doing so well.
Well, the pipeline is so needed because you go on the news, or if you go on TikTok, you hear a lot of young people saying, we're applying for jobs, but we're not actually getting callbacks. We're not being chosen. There's a LinkedIn posting, and within 2 minutes, there's 400 applicants. So you're building those connections, which is immensely valuable. I want to dive a little into your why. Mm-hmm. Starting a business is scary. Yeah. There's a lot of risk involved with it. Why Polymath University for you?
Yeah, well, I've done scarier things. I was an infantry platoon leader deployed to Baghdad in 2006. Yeah. That was much more scary than potentially failing and starting a nonprofit university. Sure. But the bigger answer here is it's worth it. So I might try and fail. Okay, so be it. but what if I succeed? Right? There are, imagine if I succeed for 100 students a year, for 50 students a year, for 1,000 students a year.
Yeah.
That means that more young adults have opportunities that they otherwise would not have had. There's a book that was published last month called Moral Ambition by a guy named Rutger Bregman. And he talks about people with privilege. And he talks about privilege kind of expansively. What does it mean to have privilege? I have had struggles in my life. I have also had privileges in my life. And what he says, and it lands really well with me, is that if you have privilege, you should put it on the line to serve others. And so, with my privilege, if I fail, is it going to be that bad? No, I might feel kind of sad about it. Like, oh man, I tried to do a thing and it didn't work out. But what if I succeed? And by the way, I'm willing to bet on myself. So is it stressful? Absolutely, it's stressful. I wake up every day and I'm thinking about what am I doing for the next X amount of hours today to make success in 1, 2, 5 years more likely.
Right.
It's certainly stressful, but if we succeed, it's absolutely worth it. Any stress, the stressors that I have trying to do this are minuscule compared to somebody who's struggling to pay their rent, for somebody who's, stuck in a job that's not maximizing their potential, who, for the young adults, the 71% of young adults who take on college debt and delay having a family or buying a house or whatever. Those are real life-changing opportunities that people don't have because the model, the higher ed, the higher ed model today is built on a business model from the 1950s in the post-World War II GI Bill. And the educational model is built on the 1880s, when a lot of these accreditation organizations were founded and universities voluntarily opted into them to standardize what a class means across the country. It's 2025. Things ought to be different.
Change.
We shouldn't be measuring education by how many hours your butt was in a seat in a class. That's not the way to measure educational outcomes. And yet, the structure, there's a lot of really good people in higher ed trying to make this better. But the structure, the infrastructure of higher ed is still based upon that model, which doesn't really work.
No, you're absolutely right. And so there shouldn't be a question about if you invest money into whatever have you, whether it's bonds or stocks, whatever, you're expecting a return.
Yeah.
But right now, there's a lot of questions, and there have been questions for a while. It's not new to 2025 about the role of higher ed. So I really love the fact that you're so keenly focused on we're building pipeline after university. It's not just about what you're learning. It's not just about getting you there debt-free, but you're thinking about the student in their entirety. Yeah. Not just what's taught in the classroom.
Well, there's a lot of discussion too about I want to pull on that a little bit. Return on investment for higher ed.
Yeah.
A lot of people will look at that from a purely economic perspective.
Fair.
If I pay X amount of dollars to get a degree, what will my income be thereafter? And then you see studies that show, if you have a college degree, you might make $800,000 to $1.2 million more over the course of your lifetime. Okay, that's a win. College is still a win on the average. Now, if you look at fine arts or education, which kind of always rank at the bottom of ROI on degrees, those 2 degrees are either negative or about neutral, i.e. if you invest your money, you're not going to make a return on that.
Yeah.
We should be asking ourselves as a country, let's just pick on fine arts for a second. If that's our lens, then we shouldn't have art. I heard a stat yesterday that Philadelphia, where we are now, has the most murals per capita. That's an interesting stat. Well, I don't know how that came to be, but I generally think that's a good thing. If you think about the impact that art has on our humanity, on our emotions, on our ability to connect with each other, on our ability to understand the suffering or thriving of other humans, that's pretty important. And it doesn't show up on a measure of economic output.
Right.
And so if we look at college degrees only through the lens of economic ROI, we would say, well, we shouldn't have fine arts majors. Yeah. We just shouldn't have it. Right. It doesn't deliver pay.
Yeah.
What a sad world that would be.
Oh, terrible.
And so, I use that as an example to show, two things. One, that's not the full picture that we should be looking at. Asking the question about the financial ROI on a college degree doesn't do justice to what education truly is for humans.
Sure.
But two, let's talk about in a world of AI, when we are more technologically enabled and connected than ever before, those human skills around communication, around critical thinking, around collaboration are more important than ever. And that fine arts degree might be a way that makes you a better fill in the blank.
Yeah.
You know, and the things that we're thinking about, healthcare administration. Might you be better a healthcare administration associate if you also have a fine arts background? The answer is yes. Yeah. And that's not an opinion. There's a lot of scientific studies, and you know, replace healthcare administration with cybersecurity or something else. The answer is yes. There's a lot of studies that show that when you build depth in multiple areas, so being a polymath is about breadth, depth, and integration of knowledge. When you build depth in multiple different areas, you are better able to be creative and innovative and solve complex problems because you can take concepts from one domain and apply them in another where somebody else cannot. If I studied healthcare administration like this, I said, I'm going to be the best in my craft. Yeah. I'm going to be the best. One day I'm going to run, you know, the nation's premier hospital system. Like, cool. Okay, great. We need people that are solid that can do that. But if that person only looks through this lens, they're going to miss out. They're going to miss out on opportunities. They're going to miss out on threats to their system and their model. Where if they also have, you know, really what we're doing is a modified liberal arts program. If they also have breadth as well as depth and integration, they're going to be better at the job that they're trying to do.
I love that. Breadth, depth, integration.
That's a modern polymath.
That's modern polymath. Yeah. When you look at the history of polymath, I believe you're 2 years in.
Yeah.
Have there been key transformation moments throughout that journey? I'll also put a little disclaimer. Are there any that happened before that as well that got you on this trajectory? Because so much happens before you create the LLC or the 501c3 and you make it official.
Yeah, we're a nonprofit. Yep. The key transformation moments, you know, a couple things. Making the jump was a big deal for me personally, professionally. I was serving as CEO of a national nonprofit offering scholarships to veterans and military spouses. Left that role to start something that doesn't exist, nobody knows about, literally from zero. But when people who are smarter than I am on higher education, most everybody, I'm learning a lot. When people who really knew this world said, hey, that's a good idea, that should exist. And there have been a couple moments. You know, the guy who wrote a book, Alternative Universities, Dr. David Staley, you know, he conceived of the academic structure of a Polymath University. And he, you know, after meeting with him is when I made the decision to actually do this. Wow. That was a moment. And he said, hey, this should exist. Let's do this. When Dr. Brian Rosenberg, our senior advisor, college president for 17 years, now teaches at the Ed School at Harvard. And when he said, hey, yes, I'm willing to be a senior advisor, this should exist. And he also said he thinks it's easier, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he said it's easier to start a new university than it is to change an old university.
Sure.
And the volume of change that has to happen right now to adapt to a new world in 2025 might make it better for there to be a new university rather than to modify an old one. Wow. Those were key moments. You know, people, you know, believing in this idea, who are well versed in this world. Those are meaningful. And then, you know, as a social entrepreneur, taking the leap like this, you know, I didn't get a paycheck for the first year. And then, you know, a generous investor family decided to support our work.
Wow.
That was a big moment too. You know, their belief in what we're building, their belief that this or whatever the evolution of it is should exist and serve students who might not otherwise be served. That means a lot to me. And as you know, there's a practical element of it. Yeah. But there's also like the signal of belief is important. And I think especially where we are trying to do something rather big that takes a long time, those moments of belief have been quite important before we have our first students this fall.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a couple moments, but it's all people related, you know.
I want to round out our time. Obviously, your time in the military, there was this, you were serving your country and looking out for others. You're doing that as well at Polymath, and I'm curious, did that like come from inside from the military, or did it happen before that?
Yeah, definitely before that. I went to a Jesuit high school,
Okay.
an all male Jesuit high school. I'm not Catholic, but it was in California.
Sure.
And it was a good school, and my dad prioritized education in a variety of ways that he didn't have to, and the motto for that school was "Men for Others," and that's a common Jesuit motto in co-ed environments: men and women for others. So high school, 14 to 18 years old. I was in an impressionable time. Was in an environment where the expectation was service.
Wow.
Men for others, and it's 25 years since I graduated high school. I still, just the fact that I remember it sticks in my head. It's like, oh well, what am I doing for other people? So it certainly started before the military, and also, I was in uniform from 2005 to 2010. Deployed for almost half that time to Baghdad. Infantry platoon leader, and then an aide, and I left that service. I went into that service feeling like, oh, this is gonna fulfill me. I'm gonna have I've benefited so much. There's in earlier parts of my story when I was in foster care, there was a person who really made a difference at a fork in the road for me, and I felt like I owed it to the world to give back in some way, and I thought that my military service would do that.
But it didn't.
Deployed to Iraq twice in a war that we shouldn't have been in. Didn't do that. I didn't leave my service feeling like, oh, all right, I've given back, about equivalent to what I've gained. I certainly have not. I've gained a lot more than I've given back, and so I still feel a debt to continue giving back for as much as I've received. And so this is part of that, and it feels good, Like again. If we're successful for 5 people, for one person,
Makes it all worth it.
One's not going to be sustainable, but for some small amount, right? If we're successful for some, this doesn't need to take over the world. If we have 25 students a year, we can make this work. And if we serve 25 a year, okay, I'll try to make it bigger, but if that's what it is, I'm going to be thrilled.
It's creating generational impact.
Totally. Opportunity in education. You're right to use the word generational, right? That makes a difference. My kids are going to be better off because I went to school. I'm better off because my dad prioritized education.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about, is opening doors.
Wow. Well, Dan, it's been a pleasure to sit with you a little bit, learn a little bit about your story. If people want to learn more about Polymath University or connect with you, where should they go?
Polymath.org.
There we go.
Yep.
We keep it simple.
Yep.
Dan, thank you so much.
Yep. Cool. Thank you so much.